All right, we're going to look at some of the components that Bootstrap provides for us, and there are a ton. So I'm in the doc section. I've come down here, I've clicked on components. We're going to start with Accordion, but I want you to look at this giant list of components that are built into Bootstraps that you can use. There's ways to do alerts. There's things called badges, breadcrumbs for navigation, buttons, button groups, cards, carousels, that's a popular one. Close buttons, collapse, drop downs. Those are very common things that we try to do with JavaScript. The JavaScript is built into the Bootstrap JS script that we've already applied, and all we have to know to use it is how to use these classes. All the navs and tabs and nav bars, pagination, placeholders, popovers, progress bars, that's usually with more dynamic content. Scroll, spy, spinners, toast, tooltips. There's just a ton of them. I'm just going to cover a couple of the big ones because you find the thing that you want to use and they're going to give you sample code. So I don't need to show you the code. You take the code they give you. So I want to know how to do an accordion. Well, first I need to know what accordion is. So here's an example. Here's an accordion, and we have accordion item 1, accordion item 2, and accordion item 3. So we could have a really long web page on a mobile phone. Nobody wants to scroll through it all. So we can use this accordion tool, and this works on browsers and web pages, but it lets you open and collapse sections to make an accordion. So think of the folds of the accordion. I want to look at item 2. I can use this up and down arrow over here to look at item 3. Well, how do you make that? Well, it's made with JavaScript, but for us, here's sample code that you can use. You could take this sample code, and with what you already know about HTML, you would have no problem sticking this on your web page and adapting it for your own purposes. So let's take a quick look. Here's the outside div that just says, hey, everything in this div is an accordion. It's of the class accordion. Okay. So then the first thing we have is an accordion item. So item number 1 up here, right? Somewhere down here, there's another accordion item, and there's another accordion item. Okay. Inside each of the accordion items, there's an H2. That's the header. It's got an accordion button. That's this little down arrow over here is the accordion button. And these things make it toggle for up and down, whether it's going to collapse, uncollapse. And it says, here's the words for us, accordion item 1. In the words, this is the item's accordion body. Where are those at? Right down here. In collapse 1, we could change those words to whatever we want it to be. We could put contents in there. We could put images in here. Whatever we want to do, we could replace this section inside the accordion body div. So these classes that are applied are all classes that come from the Bootstrap framework. Classes to make them collapse, classes to make them expand, all kinds of different things. You don't need to know what they all do. Hey, I like this. You copy this code, you adapt it to fit what you want it to do. And then there's some other things, removing background colors, flush, always open if you want an item to always be stuck open. You could go through and read about the things that you want if you decide you want to use an accordion. Alerts, here again we see the colors we've looked at. We got a primary alert, a secondary alert, a success, danger, warning, an info, a light, and a dark alert. And it goes through how to use those. And basically, here is a class that's alert, and it's alert secondary. So that's the color that's going to get applied to it. And it's got a role here. And it says inside a simple secondary alert, check it out. That's this one right here. Basically what that means, an alert is going to put a box around it with a color in there. Primary, secondary, danger, whatever color we pick will get applied to that alert. It's just a little box. Maybe you would use an alert box to pop up if somebody had an error on a form. We might want to pop up an alert box, say, hey, you must fill out this field, or this must contain an email address. There's lots of ways you could use that. What's a badge? Badge is scaled to match the size of the parent using relative font sizing and EM units. So those are badges. Kind of like an alert, but smaller. These are all secondary, which is why they're gray. So you can read about badges. Breadcrumbs are for navigation. You've seen this on pages as you get down deeper into a website. You can apply breadcrumbs. I'm not going to go through that. I'm going to try and stick to the ones that people like to use when they're first doing Bootstrap. Buttons and button groups. If you're, we have buttons, button primary, secondary, success. There come those colors again. Cards is pretty popular. You may have seen a card before. I think I don't remember if this version of Mr. Geiger's website is using cards or not. It might be. So a card basically has an image, a paragraph. It might have a button that's used for a link. Don't be afraid to use a button for a link. You might not want to use it for a form because we don't really know how to do back-end programming yet. But you can certainly use it for a link if you want to put a link in there. This is an href, an anchor, meaning we can just put in whatever address we want here, and somebody clicks that button, it'll take them to that address. So here's a popular one. I don't know how many times you go to a website and you see the carousel. Everybody wants to do the carousel. Okay. Here's our first slide. So you can do a carousel, and they're basically slides. You've probably seen it in the main area. Usually with controls is the one people do. That gives you this, and I can click through. There's the first slide on my section, the second slide, the third slide. How do I do a carousel? Well, right here is the code for this carousel. And it has carousel items, and the code for making the controls appear. The code is right there. You adapt it for what you want to make it. If you want to change what the previous to next button, what their labels are, right there, you can change it. Don't be afraid to experiment. You're not going to break anything by experimenting. With indicators, hey, I want them to be able to tell, are they on slide 1, 2, or 3? These indicators get added. There's a carousel with indicators. They almost give you all the options. Here's one that has captions with it. There's the code that you would want to use for that. Here's one that does crossfades, meaning instead of sliding to the left and right, they kind of fade in and out. So carousel is always a popular one. Do drop downs. There's a drop down button to do different things, and you replace the action with whatever you want with its own link, and your buttons can make you go somewhere. You see these a lot inside nav bars, so we'll look at that here in a second when we get down to nav bars. Actually, let's just jump down there. Navs and tabs. Here is a nav bar. Here's the code for that nav bar. You could replace the links that you want for each of these items and replace the words with what you want it to say, and it makes a nicely formatted nav section. But here's also is a nav bar, and that makes a little bar. You can have drop downs within your bar. This is the code. You can go through the code, figure out how it works, and use the example. Oh, where does it say link? Here's the link section. So I know this list item is for that link. The drop down, here it is. List item class, it's a nav item of drop down style. And then here's the rest of the code for that. And I can adapt it however I want to adapt it. I think I'm going to stop there. You can go through and look at all these different examples and find things that you might want to use on your page. Here's one for pagination, placeholders. Popovers. Okay, popovers rely on that third-party library Popper, which I showed you how to link the full version that includes Popper, so you should be able to use it if you want to use it. So there's a popover. It pops up and says copy to clipboard. We've done those in C# before. There's a popover title. All kinds of examples for those. Progress bars, when you start loading things from files, you might want to use a progress bar, and you can update your progress bar. You probably won't use that right now. Spinners. These are spinners. Do me a favor, don't put a spinner on your page. Spinners are really used when you're waiting for something to load, when you have a JavaScript running. If you put that on your page, people are going to sit there and wait thinking something's coming up. And if you just put it because you think it looks cool, it's going to mess with them. So that's probably not good design if it's not actually being used for something, but I've had students that like to do that before. Toasts. You can go through toast yourself. I'm not even sure what those are. That might be something new. Oh, it popped up down here. This is a toast message. Kind of like a show dialog box in C#. All right, so that's a lot of the components. Go through, find ones you want, and implement them on your web page.